Hey there, folks. This is Leadership in You. This is a presentation that I was given by Matt Williams that he gave at a judge conference down in San Diego. I really liked it, and so I wanted to bring it to this judge conference. I'm a level 2 judge for Portland, Oregon, judging for about 4 years, a little over 2 of them as a level 2 judge. I've been to over 30 multi-day events, Grand Prix and Star City events. So I've seen a lot of different styles of leadership. I've seen it in a lot of different places where leadership is important. And I wanted to talk about situational leadership, different styles, when they're going to be effective, when they might be less effective, essentially how you can adjust through that flow throughout the course of the event. Because one style will be different for different parts of the day. Because there are different parts of an event. You have your head judge briefing, then maybe you have some coordination between people, and different things are going to be more or less effective. So first off, what is leadership? I'm going to do the boring Merriam-Webster. Position as the head of a group, organization, etc. The power or ability to direct other people. The act or instance of, I use the word in the definition, leading, guidance, or direction. Someone who is going to be in charge of a thing, giving direction to other people. And this can be one-on-one, it can be one-to-many. It can even be many-to-one, although that one's a little less common. There are a couple areas where there are going to be leadership examples at events. Here's a couple. Head judge. Now, I'll use the example of a Grand Prix, where at a Grand Prix there's going to be a head judge, there's going to be a bunch of team leads, and each of those team leads will have floor judges on their team. So that's kind of a multi-leadership structure. There might be an example at a 5K event, we'll say, well, there's a head judge and just 5 floor judges. So these things will look a little different. The head judge is going to be making rulings on appeals, so that's one of the things they're going to have to do. They also have to schedule the breaks. I mean, judges aren't just going to work 14 hours in a row with no breaks and no food, right? ... They're also going to assign tasks for the team structure. So they may say, hey Joe, I want you to handle paper for the day. Brad, I'd like you to do deck checks. Chris, I'd like for you to do any logistics related things. Or they'll break down the team lead, the team structure. So Brad, you're going to be in charge of running the deck checks team. Joe, you're going to be in charge of delegating the tasks for the paper team. That's where the team leads then are going to have to do their own leadership and breaking down things. Head judge supports the team leads and floor judges under them. What does that mean? The best thing I've ever heard someone describe it as is you want to make sure the people working under you are having a good event. You want to give them a good experience so they can learn, they can be successful, and most importantly, if they're going to make mistakes, they get support in making adjustments to improve those mistakes or learn from them. So again, the team lead is going to be delegating the specific tasks they have amongst them. If they have 5 judges working under them, they might have 1 person going to each of the pairings boards. They might have these 2 people working together to do a deck check. They also are going to have to coordinate breaks. Now, that may be with people under them. That may also be with other team leads and figuring out what, who's going to take charge of figuring out which team goes on break round 3, round 4, round 5, etc. So there's a lot of different scenarios, and these are all going to be very different styles of leadership. So here's the Harrison and Blanchard model of leadership. I like it because it's a grid. It's a grid that models supportive behavior versus directive behavior. Directive behavior is me telling you to do something, whereas supportive is working along with them or maybe letting them figure it out. So as you see, there's 4 quadrants. We have delegating, supporting, coaching, and directing. As you can see, each of them is a combination of directive and supportive. These are all going to be very different. I have some examples for them. But can someone give me an example of what they think a delegating leader, an example of that? Kind of like how you would do that. Nathan?
I'd tell Jeff to count prize tickets at the prize pool.
Okay. Can someone give me an example of a supporting, sometime where you would be more of a supporting leader? Right.
Psychiatrist.
Okay, can you elaborate on that a bit?
Typically you're just more venting at the psychiatrist and you're sitting there and then they sort of help you with your problems in sort of giving you ways of maybe alleviating your stress or something like that.
Okay. Coaching. Anyone have any good examples of that? Morgan.
Helping somebody learn how to do deck checks.
Beautiful. And finally, directing. Somebody give an example of that. Come on, this is the easy one. Chris.
It's been 15 minutes since we flipped around. For God's sakes, go put these pairings up.
Yeah. Literally a lot more direct.
Yeah.
Telling you to do something. So let's start with delegating leaders. They're in the low directive, low support. They're still going to be involved in decisions and problem solving, but the specifics are up to the follower. The follower decides how the leader is going to get involved, even if they're going to involve them. I use the example of a safety team lead. So this can be a very effective style of leadership. It can also be one of the more dangerous ones. This one, you need to have a group of competent individuals under you that you trust will know how to do things without you needing to teach them or direct them. An example, let's say that we're on a deck checks team. If I know every member of my team has done deck checks before at a high level, and I trust their ability to do that, that would be a good instance here, because then they don't feel as overwhelmed by me barking down on top of them. They also feel levels of autonomy, but they're still going to involve me when things come up. So this one can be the most dangerous, but it also can lead to general personal growth from the team members. This is one that can be a good resting place, but it's one that you need to be very, very careful with. Supporting leaders. They're going to yield some decision making to the follower, but you're going to facilitate, take part in decisions, control is with the follower. So I'm the deck checks lead. I say, I need this many checks done per round. I'm going to trust the things to do. I'm going to trust that you, as a follower, are going to be doing these things throughout the round. I may be following up with you, but I'm also likely to be there alongside you while you are performing these tasks. It's used a lot of team members to prove themselves. Because it's low directive, it's not very authoritarian. You are more seen as someone working alongside them. And this can be really empowering for people, especially when they know that their lead can be someone they can ask questions from, but also that their lead trusts them with a degree of, I know how to do this. Coaching. You're going to find the roles and the tasks as the leader, but you're going to seek input from the followers. I as the leader, am still going to make decisions, but there's a lot more of a two-way street. An example for this would be coordinating the task and break assignments with judges. Figuring out, I have 5 floor judges at my PPTQ. Yeah, we have a really big PPTQ. At my head judge announcement, hey Brad, what task are you interested in doing today? Joe, what are you interested in doing today? Eric, what task do you like? What task do you not like? It lets you find out strengths of people and get information from the group, but you're still maintaining the final decision-making ability. This is really important when, like I said, in coordinating with multiple people where you want to get some input from them. You don't just want to say, Eric, you're doing this task. And then I find out later, maybe Eric is terrible at leading a deck checks team. And
that sounds like I should be leading a deck checks team.
But, so what I've done there is I've set up Eric not in a great place for success, which is likely to leave him having a less than ideal day. If I had instead said, Eric, what tasks do you prefer? Quick interlude. Has anyone ever filled out a staffing request schedule for an event? Like, I want to work on these teams, I don't want to work on these teams. That's an example, albeit you can do it in person, of this sort of coaching stuff. Directing. This is the fun one, but this can also be the most efficient, but it can also be the most off-putting. This is going to be the one where, like, the leader makes all of the decisions. They're not taking any input from the followers. They are just taking all of their information and supervising very closely. So this is going to be the head judge explaining procedures like appeals. I don't want the procedure for appeals. I don't want to solicit input on that procedure from my followers. If I'm the head judge, I have a process for that, and I want my followers to follow it. This can also be for team structure and other things where this is my show. That's really important. It's really important during those moments, kind of like the calm before the storm. This helps set up good practices. Sean, you can probably attest as the head judge when you're doing a team briefing at a GP, you don't want team leads telling you how you are going to head judge. You want to, this is what I expect out of you.
I am the captain now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, perfect example. So I'm going to go back to the model. You see that there's like this flow. There were some other pictures that I realized had it afterwards. It actually wraps around because you cycle through a lot of different versions of this. And it wraps around delegating, can go back to directing. On the higher directed behavior, and there's no good way to say this, but there's another one that there's another bar which is competency of the individual. Higher competency individuals, aka people who have more experience of doing something, are likely to require less support, less directive. They know how to do it. I can say, I want you to handle these tasks. You know how to do them, get it done. You don't really care about the method they do. I don't care, well, besides the Australian method, I don't care how my deck checks team does deck checks. I just want them to do deck checks each round, come to me with issues, or their team lead. That's how they do it. Does anyone have any questions so far about things that I've talked about? If they need me to explain some things? I didn't actually realize that these were hour-long presentations when I made my presentation. Cody, what's
What's
up?
the Australian deck check?
The Australian method of deck checks is, the intent is that you won't need to shuffle, players won't need to shuffle the deck when they are turning. It's much more effective for single set limited. The idea is you keep the deck in the order that they gave it to you, and you mark off cards on the deck list. However, policy still says that we give 3 minutes when we take the deck for a deck check, so it eliminates that meaningfulness. Players have also been trained to shuffle their decks, so yeah, I don't like it.
Fair enough.
Right.
So you've been in the team lead position
Yeah.
a handful of times, many
Yeah.
times, I don't know. Where do you fall in this graph, and how do you feel about that?
So, I know one of my tendencies as a team lead is to micromanage. It's something that I struggle with. I want to be very involved, and I want to make sure that people are doing things correctly. The style, however, that I want to use the most is the supporting one. I want to trust the members of my team are going to complete tasks without me needing to specifically say, this is how you post pairings at the beginning of the round. At this time in the round, I want you taking them down. At this time, this is what I want happening. But I want to be very supportive to them. I want them to know that I'm available to help them if issues come up. That they can come to me and say, I'm having an issue with, I cannot understand how to do a deck check quickly. It takes me too long. Can you help show me how to work through this? Sure. There's obviously situations like at the beginning of the day, directing is going to be the best, but I like to default into the supporting. These are all team activities. Judging is a team activity unless you're judging as one person, but there's still probably a store employee that you're working with. And doing it as a team is really important. And a lot of events at the not GP level are going to be 15 to 100 players. And so having your team actually have actually feel supported and feel together because the leader is creating a good situation, I value a lot. I like it when the team is upbeat and able to solve problems and not upset at their leadership. Eric.
So you were kind of saying that this wraps around.
Yes.
And so the impression that I'm getting, like the intent of this line is to say, like as the person you're leading is getting more experience, that you can kind of sway into these different roles. So I'm curious, like if it wraps around, like what's a case where you would wrap this back around to directing, and like what's the value in that?
So, at the beginning of the day, I've made my announcements about processes and whatnot. I've told people this is what I expect out of appeals and tournament procedures. Then, in chatting with judges, chatting with my judges, I say, all right, this is going to be the breakup of tasks. You're going to be dealing with this, and because I've already set some of the expectations at a directing level, now I can just, on other tasks, pull back and say, all right, you're going to be handling this, you'll be handling this, you'll be handling this, and it's really about the flow of the event, and as things evolve throughout the course of the event. There's times I've been in situations where there's a judge call that just needed to end. The investigation was taking too long. People were starting to bring information together, and it was taking on too long. It was dragging on too long, and the head judge told us, we need to make a decision. We need to either go forward with disqualifying the player or let them play on.
So basically pull them out of the tank.
Yeah. I know you had your hand up.
So you talked about how delegating was risky or could fail.
Yes.
Do you have any examples of that, or explain how it could fail?
Yeah. So providing low support and low directive for judges can fail if you don't know their capacity as a judge. If I've never worked with a group of judges and I don't know how reliable they are going to be for any given task, or how autonomous they can be, it can be dangerous to just say, you're doing this, you're doing this. However, if I know someone's capacity, if I've worked with them 5 or 6 times, it's going to be a lot more effective for me to say, you're in charge of paper, you're in charge of this. The needs individually may need to change. If I've worked with Joe 5 times, but I've only worked with Brad once, I may need to be more supportive and work with him, explaining processes, how I'd like certain things done.
So the risk is that we just don't get things done?
The risk is that the risk is that people will do things incorrectly and to the detriment of the tournament. Not just end justifies the means, because sometimes it doesn't in our practices.
Yeah.
James.
Well, I would also concur with that it's not just that they're going to be doing it incorrectly, it's that if you say to someone, you're going to be handling deck checks, and that's all, and you just assume they can do it, for them, they may not feel comfortable coming back to you and saying, I've never done a deck check before, how do I do this?
It's setting up the expectations at the beginning. So getting to know your judges is at the more personal roles where it's head judge and 5 coordinators. Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to just sort of call out, like, the Pro Tour is probably one of the best examples that we have, like, in the judge program of, like, an active delegating. The head judge is like, you're all L3s, do this thing, and I'm going to go take a nap for almost
It's knowing that everyone on your team has experienced all the roles of a floor judge, and that you trust that they will come to you if they need support in any particular way. That is where the low directive and low support is the most effective. There is, I would put some amount of value in being high directive, low support, even if you know that people are familiar with things. There's some amount of value in reinforcing that, as long as you're not being over the top about it. But never make assumptions. Never make assumptions, because that will lead to very bad things happening in your tournaments. It can also, if you are defaulting to like a more laid back assuming everyone's going to handle tasks, and there's one judge that's working with you that's never worked an event before, they may have a very poor experience. They may see that as, this is my expectation of other leaderships in the future, and I don't like that. And that may have, that core experience that they had is going to color the rest of their judgment. You know, they may only want to work individual events Friday night, which is okay, but giving them a good, it's a good show. Sounds like a weird term, but it's the best one I can think of.
It is a show.
So yeah, these styles are situationally effective. Adjusting is important. Be aware. Leaders really are responsible for the people underneath them. Making sure they have a good time, making sure they're learning, making sure they feel valued, and feeling valued is both in regards to compensation. It's also just in regards to, are they learning things throughout the day? If that's valuable to them. I know a lot of floor judges at PPTQs are likely to be there because they want to learn and either advance towards level 2 or learn more about the judge program. As a leader, you want to provide them with the support so that they can figure out if that's right for them or if it's not. Other examples where you're going to have leadership at Grand Prix is going to be with sides leads, people who have to figure out, I have these 10 events that I need to staff people for. I know Ron has done that in the past in terms of I have two-headed giant events and I have on-demand events. I got to figure out what judges want what. And setting them up for success can often be difficult, but getting that input from people will lead Ron to make better decisions, or worse decisions. It is a lot shorter than I planned. Eric.
Just to jump a little bit off of what you're doing.
That's
what
okay.
you're saying. One of the things that I've been doing with local judges that I've been working with to kind of coach them a little bit is if I'm working on an event with them where I'd be the head judge, I would usually proactively send them out an email to say, hey, do you have any goals going into this event? Even if like they wouldn't think about that themselves normally, and this is like a tiny PPQ and it's not going to be hard, but still think about like, is there something that you want to work on? And then we can come up with a way to get you doing something at the event so you can work on it.
Yeah, setting, communicating ahead of time, because that sounds very similar to the staffing emails for Grand Prix that we're going to get about, do you have any requests for your shifts? Do you have any requests for people you're working with, any goals you're trying to meet? In the end, a lot of these, you're just hopefully going to be learning one or two different things throughout the day. I try and learn or steal an idea from every event that I work at. I will say I can't remember them, but I've likely incorporated them into what I do.
At least you'd like to believe.
I'd like to believe. Look, leadership can be tough, it can be stressful. There will be times when, as the leader, you have to figure out why someone under you isn't accomplishing tasks for one reason or another, and you may need to adjust things that you're doing. You may need to provide them more direct support, work alongside them to do a thing. It may be something as simple as reinforcing to them that it's okay that they messed up this one round. It didn't blow up the event. Even though it felt like a big mistake at one time, in the grand scheme of the tournament's not derailed. And that everything can be a learning experience, and that they will do it correctly next time.
So it sounds like you're advocating mostly for the supporting version of leadership.
That's what I like the best.
What are you doing in situations where you find that some people, and you may not have noticed this at the beginning of the day, but some of your team members basically thrive under, hey, go do this, and other ones thrive under the micromanagement style. Like, how do you find yourself doing both, or trying to gear them? Do you cater yourself to the team or the team to you?
I'm open to both. I definitely prefer the being a supportive leader style, but if the members under me are going to thrive with being given direction, and if that's what's going to work, what's best, I will try and adapt myself. That can be challenging for me, especially if I've started with a goal in mind of I won't be doing this throughout the day, but because I'm giving a lot of the other tasks away to people, and team leads or head judges aren't doing a lot of the specific tasks themselves, hopefully I can adjust and refocus and dedicate my bandwidth to giving my judges what they need. Because in the end, if they're doing the tasks that I'm asking of them, I probably owe it to them to be supportive to them and give them something that works. I can explain to them at the end of the event, this is my style, this is what I prefer. You might try doing this.
So I think, let's see, when I'm judging at local events and working with judges I've worked with before, it's really easy because you work with somebody before and you know, okay, this person needs more guidance, this person wants less guidance. And
Exactly.
some of the people basically feel insulted and attacked if you give them too much direction. And other people feel like you're a bad team lead if you don't give enough direction. Like just when that could be the same view of the exact same style of leadership. So I found knowing the people you're working with and being able to cater helps a lot. Where one consideration is before an event, asking, like, you show up at a Grand Prix, you've got these team members, asking them, what style do you prefer? What do you work well under? But then the problem is that a lot of times people, especially if it's somebody who's newer to working on teams, may not actually know that answer, and you really have to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
And so do you have any suggestions for figuring that out?
So figuring it out on the fly, one good way is you can actually watch them as they're completing tasks, or you can watch them as they're interacting with other people on the floor. If they are displaying confidence in their tasks, it's likely that they feel good about their ability to do X, Y, and Z. Alternatively, if you know ahead of time, if you're a level 3 that's team leading on the main event for day 1, and you get your team list and you have Brad and Joe and Eric on your team, if you've never worked with any of these guys, you could email them and say, hey, I've never worked with you before. How do you thrive at events? What do you need for me to support you? This can also be done during the team meeting at the beginning of the day. And you can also leave it open to where you might even have those discussions with people individually on the Friday before the GP. If people maybe feel uncomfortable discussing it in front of a group, well, I actually need a lot more support. I've only worked 2 Grand Prix and I've not gotten to work a lot of different roles. So really being a human being and understanding that people may either want to talk in front of the group or not want to talk in front of the group. You could also do some basic stuff like look at their event history on Judge Apps, although that may be incomplete, to get a glimpse of how many events they've worked. Or you could ask their regional coordinator if this is something you're really dedicated on finding out, like, I want to help this person have a really good day. I want to make sure that I know what's going to help them thrive. So you can do some of the research. You can also just talk to them. I found that judges can be pretty reasonable people, especially when you're talking one-on-one, and especially when you're framing it as, how can I help you have a good day? Not, how do I need to work with you so that you don't suck? It's amazing how well that phrasing difference makes a difference. Shocker. Good question, Brian. Eric.
So we've kind of been talking about leadership in the context of on an event form, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on how this might extend to like project involvement or community leadership, that sort of thing.
I think this absolutely translates to project leadership. I know Sean was talking about the level 2 checklist program, and he had 30 judges sign up to help him with that. That's a lot of people to manage. And Sean realized right off the bat that it was just going to delve into just madness if 30 people were all talking at the same time. So he immediately made the decision, we're going to split you up, we're going to split you up, we're going to split you up. There's other projects I've seen where people are just going to work autonomously. People may want, on projects I've worked with, I will often ask the project lead, hey, I'm trying to do this, but I need help understanding how you want this task accomplished. I work on the Miss Triggers through project, and so I'm very often chatting with my project lead how he wants it to be handled, mainly because it's his project, and I've just helped him kickstart it back up. But I want to make sure that we're doing what he wants, and also because I know that that's how he leads the project, and I want to be respectful of that. In terms of community stuff, yeah, you can absolutely. I mean, the directing style is going to be a lot more difficult in a community setting, especially if you're all not working towards the same goal. But something where Scott Marshall is our leader is saying, Eric, I want you to be the area representative for this state. Brad, I want you as the area rep for this state. Joe, I don't want you touching anything. It can be effective. So I think situational leadership will absolutely transfer over. It's really just a matter of understanding the competency level of the people you're working with, and also what the needs of the project are. If the process matters, then maybe as the leader, you really want to work with people to understand the process, so that when you get a finished product, you aren't saying, well, you got me the right stuff, but in the wrong way. The judge program is a program of people. I think people will generally be willing to work with each other if there's good communication about expectations and needs. Any other final questions?
Oh, well, now that there's a slide.
Oh, well, in that case. Brad.
Are you 10 squirrels in a man suit?
I am not 10 squirrels in a man suit.
There's 12.
James.
Did anyone else just realize that on that last slide, enhanced awareness is actually a picture of Zergo?
Is it?
That's gotta be him. The face is weird, but all the armor is correct.
It's 4,000 years in the past.
I think so. I saw another hand while James was orthosing us. Anyone? No? Okay.
Blue one, blue too.
So it looks like we're gonna be ending a little early. I'm gonna give a little bit of like an overall conference thing. Please make sure you filled out for all the stuff you went to this really cool evaluation sheet.
Actually, I'll
Yeah, Ron,
much
you do
more
this.
thorough explanation.
Yeah.
All right, so